Good evening, my local drones. This is Bio Gundam, and I'm back again for another video. So today we're going to be doing a podcast / discussion about Dragon Maid, and here to help me, two buddies of mine. Come introduce yourselves. Guys, introduce yourselves.
Ladies first.
Don't even think about it.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not a regular. Chipping in with Maid Dragon is Otaking09. You may have remembered that name from a particular YouTube channel back in the day. I don't wish to embellish that, but Bio Gundam saw fit to include me in this venture, and what are friends for, right? Happy to be here.
Exactly.
Okay, I don't...
Lonecrit, are you gonna go?
Yeah, I don't really need to do any kind of introduction, because, I mean... we all know who I am. I've been here so many times before.
So today's discussion, we're going to be talking about Dragon Maid, about its themes, characters, music, art, just sort of general thoughts about it. And to open up general discussion, I just want to say, what do you guys think of the premise of Dragon Maid? Because, when I first heard of Dragon Maid, I just thought it was like, oh, it's just going to be more moe, cutesy shit, and for some reason, Lonecrit, if you're talking, I can't hear you, so try and fix your mic. It's fine. Like, I won't be able to edit this out, but it makes it more organic. Like, when I saw the premise of Dragon Maid, I kind of just viewed it as like this old cutesy, moe, over-sexualized shit. And when I actually saw it, it was the complete opposite of that. It's just like the main character Kobayashi reacts exactly how I would react if a dragon showed up on my porch and offered to be my domestic servant. And it's just. I don't know, it's just very endearing. Like, I find it very endearing, and I'm just going to stop right there, so I'll open up discussion.
Yeah, in all fairness, though, the only reason that you thought it was going to be sexualized in the first place most likely was because of all the memes.
That, and I also saw Cyanide Blizzard's first impression video on about, there was, the opening video, and it's just, the fucking bouncing titties, it's like that opening, remember, with the shota?
Yeah, okay, fair enough, but...
That doesn't exactly paint the most honest, I'm just kind of ugh.
Yeah, okay, that's a fair point. By the way, just saying, Shota, I love his name, if you know what Shota means.
Yes, I know what Shota means. I've watched enough hentai to understand what that means.
So you have, you disgusting degenerate, you.
I'll suck my dick, you half-Greek. Now,
what's that to suck?
What's your thoughts on, the premise? Exactly. Okay, so enough about insulting each other and technical difficulties. What's your guys' thoughts on sort of, the premise of Dragon Maid, or kind of, the first episode?
Well, I think it's, an incredibly endearing show, one of Kyoto Animation's best, and hands down one of the best anime of its year. While it may seem bare bones at first, it's generally speaking an extremely endearing and human tale, of a series of individuals creating an ideal place for themselves where they can belong. A theme transcendent of time that will always be relevant.
I think my view, I think one episode, one scene I really liked in Dragon Maid that sort of encapsulate that is, fanfare, because basically throughout the entire series he's like, oh, I hate humans are disgusting, and throughout the series he finds a connection with humans, especially, he gets addicted to video games, he gets addicted to Dark Souls, and then he lives with, this random otaku weirdo, and then they play, RPG games, he plays online video games for 21 hours straight, and people on the online chat rooms notice him as oh, he's that famous dude. He's like, man, he's inhuman. And he says I'm not human, don't lump me with the rest of you. And I feel how fanfare becomes attracted to the human world, or this world, through otaku and nerd culture. And I think a lot of us here can sort of relate to that, of how we ourselves of individuals have become connected through anime and manga and that kind of nerd culture as well.
Yeah, definitely. Although his name is Fafnir, not whatever you said.
I don't speak Nordic.
The hell?
Fanfare is a dragon from Norse mythology. Didn't you know that?
No, I did not, and I had no need to know
You're
that.
such an uneducated pleb.
Oh.
Learn some mythology, dude.
No.
And I know, but also another sort of character arc I kind of like is Kana, who, for dragon years, she is considered a child, and through her interactions of the world around her, she learns to interact with people who are the same mental age as her. With her friend who, what's her name? Let me go find it. Shantae's somewhere.
Saikawa.
Riko. Yeah, Sawakawa. Like, they become really good friends, and the thing that's sort of interesting about it is that, like, Kana is, like, what, centuries old? Yet, for a dragon who has a different perception of time, she's about the same age mentally as this girl that she is befriending. And I find their relationship very endearing, and the memes very funny, because ravioli, ravioli, don't loot the dragon lolly, you heretic.
It's not only that, though, she's actually one of my personal favorite characters, because, her character arc of sort of becoming more aware of the needs of the people around her, and becoming less egocentric and putting her own wills and whims aside for a second in favor of what other people need, is one of the most endearing character arcs in the series.
Yeah, there was a great scene of that, like when they're buying school equipment and she wants to buy that charm, but she realizes that Kobayashi's just like, oh, this is really expensive, the thing I'm buying. She realizes that she can't actually bankrupt Kobayashi for just a fucking shiny trinket. So she puts it back, and Kobayashi like notices that, and she's like, good girl. Like, she becomes more aware. I mean, like, as a child, you don't get the concept of money and stuff, and Kana, being a dragon, I doubt really cares about the concept, as she is pretty much strong enough to take whatever she wants. And I really like that development.
And one of the most impressive things, by the way, is that it's done with almost no words, no internal monologue, no dialogue, no nothing. She just picks it up, is like, ooh, I like this, observes Kobayashi, and is like, I'm gonna put this back. Without saying a single thing.
It's a great use of the show don't tell aesthetic, and I would think it adds a bit of maturity, because there's quite a few scenes where it's just showing you what's happening. Like, it doesn't have to tell you. Like, it's not telling you that, oh, Fanfare likes video games and he's becoming attached to this human, because they show it to you in certain scenes. Like, for example, he waits outside in the rain for his human friend to come to work so they can hang out. He doesn't have to say anything. He's just standing there, and his actions speak louder than his words.
It's not only that, though. The way that's actually reciprocated is one of my favorite scenes in the series, in which, like, the otaku guy is just sitting at home, oh no, wait! Other way around, sorry. What happens is that Fafnir is playing video games, and he's waiting for the other guy to, like, come into the house, and he leaves out, some towels for him to dry himself, and he doesn't say anything, but I find this extremely impressive, because we see the bond that has been built between these two individuals, of this sort of otaku guy that only has one friend, Kobayashi. If you really want to get technical, more like half a friend or a quarter of a friend, Otaking Bio.
It's friend-zoning, basically.
No, you guys know what scene I mean, when she gets drunk. Anyway, though, so...
Yeah, I know, that shit is amazing. It's like, you're not a proper maid! That shit is amazing.
Yeah, what I mean, though, is that it's interesting to see these two very lonely people, or not exactly lonely because they don't feel that way, but more these people without anybody to depend on particularly, build this mutual friendship and understanding, between each other, where they get to support each other even without openly saying it.
Yeah, it also speaks a lot about their relationship, because they're actually true friends, because true friends don't need to say anything to understand what they mean. I mean, it sort of speaks about their bond, because they don't have to talk. It's like, oh yeah, I left you out a towel. He just left out a towel, and Fanfare understands the context of that, because they have such a bond that they don't need words to describe how they care about each other, or to justify why they do the things they do.
It's also a respectful way of handling Fafnir's character arc, as I really like it when characters don't often, like, step out of the way they normally outwardly present themselves, but despite that make actions that speak volumes about how much they've changed. So,
Yeah, exactly.
in this case, with Fafnir, he doesn't act differently outwards than what he'd normally do, but his actions indicate the change that he's undergone, which I really, really love.
Yeah, and the thing is that, like, if you've seen, like, a lot of shounen and stuff like that, like, all of them are like, oh, I'm fighting for you because you're my friend, or we're friends, or we are nakama. But with Dragon Maid, it's just like, yeah, we're friends, and we support and help each other, and I'm just gonna help a bro out, like, help him get dry. I don't need to give him any friendship speeches or anything like that. I'm just gonna showcase that, yes, I do care.
This also works extremely well to the endearing slice-of-life style of the series.
Yes, it does.
Doesn't
I
need to
also
get
wanna
too
talk-
heavy-handed or too overt, just to tell this story of these people. In a very
Yeah.
whimsical KyoAni manner, mind you.
Yeah, the thing I actually like about Dragon Maid is how it displays all this, like, abnormal shit as, like, normal. I mean, like, Toro, for some reason, just keeps on trying to feed Kobayashi her tail that, like, grows back for some reason. It's
Well,
just
yeah,
weird.
hence, the fish-out-of-water gag comedy nature of the series.
Yeah, it is kind of like a fish out of water thing, because I think Zack brought up this point before, like in the first episode when Kobayashi and her friend are getting drunk and they're talking about like IT stuff and office thing. Toro is completely out of the loop. And then there's another scene where in the second episode where there's a robber at the supermarket area. She stops him and shows almost inhuman levels of strength. And then there's like that scene where it's just dead silence, people staring at her, and Kobayashi's like, oh shit, people saw that. They're probably going to think of her as some sort of monster. And I really like that scene. Like, even though she was accepted for being a hero, it sort of underlays that threat of, if people find out that, that Miss Kobayashi has these dragons, which are basically walking weapons at this point, things are going to get pretty serious pretty quickly. But I like the fact of how the series just treats all this crazy shit as just another run-of-the-day adventure. It's just like, yeah, the dragons, they can blow up stuff. It's just like, oh, look how strong they are. You know, it was surprising the first time, but second time it's just like, yeah, this is just what dragons do.
I also like the way that the show's comedy is a synthesis of the fish-out-of-water comedy combined with absurdist humor, in the way that they present something that could be done simply, but they do it in a ridiculously over-the-top way, where they simultaneously also get to execute the fish-out-of-water jokes, because again, dragons from a different world. Yo, Otaking, actually, what were your thoughts on that? Well,
say that again.
what were your thoughts on the comedic style of the show?
In one of those calm, refreshing family sitcoms that you might remember if you've grown
like
up
Friends.
enough with them, they would take on a reassuring tone, one where you would that's an aspect about the show that it soon graduates. It's less about juxtaposing the extreme with the down to earth, then more so does it contextualize that into being a study of culture shock. And what's good about the show is that it doesn't just reduce the culture shock study to just like meme culture or otaku-centric aspects, but how most of that psychology behind it, of feeling lost and different, is played up to misconceptions and misunderstandings, but is always brought down to home, brought down to the fact that we need to hear what people say, and we need to understand where it's coming from. You could almost equate this to some of your healing anime, like Aria, if you wanted to. Well, Mushishi not so much. Mushishi doesn't try to reassure us of anything except, well, if you wanted to, you could say Mushishi is all about reassuring the fact that we do not need to understand everything to still feel at peace with the world. But that's a long generalization of
I
of
understand,
Mushishi
because,
subject matter.
Mushishi's quite complicated and it tackles a lot of themes. But just going on line with, like, reassurance, like, the scene I mentioned before where she displays inhuman strength, I mean, they do mention it in the show that humans are afraid of what is different and what they don't understand, because the basic human nature is, I don't understand it, I'm afraid of it, kill it so I don't have to understand it. And I think the fact that the show sort of brought up that idea is, I wouldn't say a more realistic take, but it's being realistic in the fact that, you know, things could go bad, but I doubt it would, because it would be a completely different show and would probably ruin the theme. And it would probably just ruin the theme if it went down that route.
Yeah, actually, the main theme is actually reinforced even more to a degree that I really like, in the way that it presents, or rather, in the kind of understanding it builds up between the characters. It has the characters understand who each other is, not their circumstances, which is one of the most endearing aspects. At least to me.
At the end of the day, it just goes to show that most of us go through the same behavioral and attitude differences growing up. We all wonder if the other person is thinking what we're thinking at this moment in time, and if they are, what does that mean? Is that okay? Does that mean I'm not that special anymore? This type of psychology Maid Dragon goes into with a very open heart and doesn't condemn the subjects in question, which, again, is why I'm quite tempted to call it a healing anime. As a comedy, I feel like it loses that value once it starts to take its characters more seriously.
I think it loses the whole comedy aspect, like around
episode
4. Because it becomes more focused on slice of life and fitting in, because that's kind of like one of the themes, is fitting in. Because if you're a dragon, you can't display all your full strength. I mean, for fuck's sakes, they'll blow up the entire town. Like, if Toro went all out, like on, say, a burglar or something like that, she would destroy the entire town and probably half of Japan without even blinking.
Wait, I still think it maintains the comedic aspect enough. Like, to some degree, drops some of the absurdist aspects, but nevertheless, it presents comedy in one of my favorite fashions. It builds comedy by having funny people. So even if they grow as people, as long as they're still funny, they can still create comedic situations, while simultaneously or growing. And this is something that Maid Dragon does extremely well. It allows the characters to grow, to sort of becoming more adept at working their way into the mundane and living as normal people, while simultaneously, because of their fun and eccentric personalities, keeping up the comedy just in different ways.
Yeah, but the funny thing is that after, like, episode 3 or 4, I stopped laughing and just sort of more was engrossed by the atmosphere and the slice of life aspect, which is pretty weird, because slice of life, I wouldn't say it's like my least favorite genre, but it's kind of something I'm kind of neutral on, because there's only so much you can do with slice of life before it gets boring.
Again, though, I didn't stop laughing because the funny people made funny situations, and that was great.
Well, I sort of found it more cute going on. Like, for example, the Lord Dragon, you know, that one that's going to be like the moral fag that's going to ruin everyone's fun. It's like, oh yeah, go back to your world. You don't belong here, Ree. You know, I like the part of where she's like hungry and starving, and then Kobayashi offers her a cream puff. And just like, oh, I've been enslaved by this goodness. And then she stays to this world and becomes an office worker, contradicting what she wanted the other dragons to do.
Yeah, actually, this plays into the theme of the show really well. I often hear people say it's about family, and through the portrayal of the character of Elma, I have to strongly disagree. This is why I always say something vague, like the main theme of Maid Dragon is about finding a place to belong, because through the use of this character that to some may seem tacked on, it shows that people don't necessarily need to find a place where they can belong with people, but in her case, just through, you know, working honestly and having a place for yourself in the modern world. And simultaneously, it also displays one more way how, all the characters in Maid Dragon drop their old lives that weren't for them and find new ones that they can be more fulfilled in.
Yeah, because if I remember correctly, like, this Alma chick, she is part of the Law Dragon faction. So basically it's like lawful, oh, don't do that, I don't like it, you know, stop being immoral, ree! And, well, Toro and Fanfare are like part of the Chaos Dragon faction that are all about, oh, free-spirited, well, you to tell us what to do, we'll do as we please, ree!
Actually,
and,
it's just all of them.
Yeah, exactly, ree! And, I like the fact that it's sort of like, I mean, there is some sort of there is conflict going on in their world, and I love the fact that they drop it when they get here because in episode 1, when Tora was sleeping next to Kobayashi, she has like a sort of like a PTSD dream flashback of her being attacked by humans, and when she wakes up, she sees Kobayashi right next to her, just lying down there, and I like that scene because it basically says that Toro, she's gonna be fine. Like none of the humans here, they're not gonna be a threat to her. Like especially not Kobayashi. Like Kobayashi is her friend. She can trust Kobayashi.
I really love that they show scenes like this for two reasons. Not only does it make the tone change near the end seem less radical, because it sort of intertwines scenes like this throughout the entirety of the show, but even despite that, it also builds up the significance of Toru's new life to her by juxtaposing it with elements of her previous life.
Yeah, like I would agree, because like her new life wouldn't have much impact unless there was like some bad things going on. I mean, she even says that herself. I mean, throughout her life, she's had to fight humans and fight for survival. And when she comes to this world, where there's barely anything a threat to her, it allows her to sort of let her guard down and relax a bit.
Yeah, this is also the difference between her and the other dragons. Because, details about their previous life aren't as embellished as hers, we have very minimal details. We only see what they find in the new world that they couldn't find in their previous ones, but Toru is made more important by the fact that she not only has something to gain, she has something to lose that she wants to lose. Because her previous world was definitely a very cruel one. Unlike Fafnir, for example, and Lokoa, who, as far as we know, just sort of existed in their previous worlds, and were not unhappy, but not happy either.
Yeah, like, the thing with, like, Toro is that now she has something that she actually gives a shit about. Like, something... Like, even though it won't last forever, and even Fanfic says that, eventually that human pet of yours is going to die soon, and you're going to have to let go. And she says, like, it doesn't matter, because I'm going to enjoy the time that we have together. And I also like the scene where her father comes and tells her, come back to this world and leave Kobayashi behind. But she's like, no, fuck you, I want to stay here. I won't leave until...
That was one of my favorite moments in the entire show, because, Toru's father represented, her old world, trying to pull her back in. So, in the end of the show, when she fights her father, and eventually convinces him to allow her to live in the human world, and... Actually, yeah, that's mostly it, and him returning to the previous world without her. This represents the fact that Toru has truly created this place for herself in the new world, and has cut ties with the old one. So I just find this a very climactic end to her character arc.
Yeah, I mean, she's moved on. She's overcome that sort of negative, like, connotations. Like, because a lot of the dragons, they do say they sort of have a bad experience of humanity. And speaking of dragons and humanity, do you want to talk about, like, Shota and Lukua as well?
I don't really feel that there's that much to say there. That was easily the weakest pairing in the show.
Oh, exactly. Like all the other, like, human and dragon pairings, they have this nice dichotomy, or sort of, like, this nice sort of relationship. But I feel like Lukua and Shota is just, like, tacked on. And I feel like the only reason it's there is to make dojins. Like, that's basically what I feel like it is.
Okay, wait a second. I wouldn't quite go that far, because it does present one extremely strong element in their relationship that, while not worked on too much, is extremely important for the themes of the show. It's in that one conversation where they're talking about their living arrangements, where Loka's like, well, what can I do for you? You want money? Power? Sex? And he's like, no, I don't want any of the above. I believe in gaining power my own way, I have no need for money, and I'm too young for sex. So, the indirect conclusion, or rather, the indirect deal that they come to is that she's just going to be there for him, to support him emotionally, no other strings attached. And that's an extremely endearing aspect that sort of, not as ever present in their relationship as I would have liked, but it is still there enough when we see their interactions, and the fact that she gets to be there for him where his parents can't. So I still wouldn't call that relationship tacked on, just a little underdone. Relative to the others, anyway.
Yeah, I would agree. Like, it's a little underdone, especially as Loco is used mainly for fan service quite a few times, you know, with the bouncing and the very, outfits that leave very little to the imagination. But, enough about, Locoa. Do you guys want to talk about sort of, like, Kana and her school, relationship before we move on to, like, the sound and art and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, actually, I'd love that.
Yeah, I really like...
Hey guys, I'm gonna probably leave because I'm realizing just how out of my element I am here. But I'm glad I could say what little stuff I could say during the beginning
it's good to have you here.
But I don't mean to go, but I mean it's already at the 25-minute mark, and you guys are getting into it, and I just don't feel good with the fact that it's probably going to spoil, that these are just a lot of good little spoilers.
Yeah, it's fine.
You know
just make sure you send your recording to me raw. Like, just put it in like an MP3 file and send it to me before we continue. Bye-bye. See you later. Okay, Drone, say goodbye to Otaking. He was a good guest, and hopefully we'll have him more for further adventures and exploits.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye. Now, when it talks to the sort of the school life, I really enjoy the sort of school life element because, you know, Kana gets to interact with people who are the same mental age as her, and she is growing, you know, learning more about the human education and learning teamwork and stuff like that. Like, during the entire sports festival, like, she could basically, like, win everything, but she didn't. She held back her strength because she wanted to be fair to the others.
Yeah, although I didn't really care for the school life aspect, the thing that I really cared about was the way bits like this contributed towards her relationship with Kana, and ties back to what I said earlier about mutual understanding just by knowing who the other person is and understanding their feelings, rather than their circumstances, in the way that, Saikawa doesn't understand that Kana's a dragon or her previous life, because Kana never lets that on. But despite that, they build a relationship purely on the fact that they like each other, that they feel nice with each other, and they get to enrich each other's lives.
Yeah, do you notice that, like, you know, that girl's family is like a bunch of maids? Like, I remember when they go to their house, it's just like a bunch of old-timey maids.
Actually, it was just one maid, and to be precise, it was her sister that just really likes maids.
I also really like maids too. But enough about that. Now, since we finished like the story and characters, do you want to talk about the music and art?
Yeah, sure. Let's go ahead.
Before we wrap this up, I must admit that at first I didn't really like the opening, but I must admit that the opening is like extremely catchy. I mean, I just like the beginning part where it's like the city, and I still like the like I like the entire beat of it. Like it's a very uplifting show, like uplifting song. Like your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I really like the opening theme too. It definitely goes to encapsulate not only the whimsical tone of the show, but also just the beauty of the mundane, the people that enrich each other's lives just by being there, and the little aspects of daily life that may not mean anything in themselves, but still contribute a lot to the perspectives of the dragon characters, mainly Toru.
Cool. I don't really care for the ending theme because I just find it garbage compared to the opening.
To be honest, I didn't really hear the ending. I always skip endings.
Yeah, exactly. Like the only endings that are good are the Yu-Gi-Oh ones. Now when it comes to art, I find the art very vibrant and bright and colorful, and it has a lot of like character to it. Like especially when the dragons activate their dragon powers in human form. Like you know how they sort of have like these teeth come out, their eyes turn orange, and they're like powering up energy blast. Like that scene looks really cool, and you can tell that Q-Annie had a lot of fun like animating those scenes, especially with the fucking explosive
Yeah, they used
fights.
really nice special effects for those scenes. really helping sort of.
Lonecrit,
Yeah, as I was saying before, I really like these scenes. They really combine the fantasy aspects with their mundane, whimsical portrayal of everyday life extremely well. So it never really stands out.
Yeah, you're just kind of roboting there for a second. I think I might not be able to hear you, so I think we've said everything we need to say, and we should wrap up this video. So I'm just gonna say that thank you guys for listening, and thank you Lonecrit and Zack or Otaking for showing up. And we're gonna wrap up this video.
Before you leave,
so just say your piece.
Yeah,
Lonecrit,
what would you rate the show?
I'd give it a 6, like a high 6 or a low 7 out of 10, because it's very endearing, and like there's just so much for it. Like it has I wouldn't say so much thematic depth, but it has more depth than half the stuff that QAnon comes out with. And I think that's saying
to
something.
be honest, I'd give it a strong 7. It doesn't have quite the level of poignancy that would make the series quite top tier, but despite that, it manages to create an extremely whimsical, human, lighthearted, and endearing experience that's timeless. And with that, I am done.
Yeah, it's fine. You will start. Okay, cool, you're roboting. So this is Bio Gundam saying goodbye. Thank you, drones, for listening, and good night. So stop your recording now.